today, and they would all be driven down to admire it this evening. She had only been out on small boats with him, something she endured as part of their courtship, but this was a big thing. He had paced out 14 meters down the garden to show her just how big. It might be fun over the summer. She watched her husband spreading another piece of toast for Gracie and then carefully trimming off the crusts. He looked up at her with his guilty schoolboy expression, and she shook her head, but they were only joking with each other. They still did that a lot, which was good, and she knew there were not many fathers as involved with their children as Anthony. She said to him, "Have you got much on today?" He was drinking his coffee quickly, and she knew he'd soon be leaving. He said, "Plenty. Mondays are always busy." "With what? I don't know what it is you directors do half the time." He knew she was teasing, but he said, "Hiring and firing today. Did you ever meet Liam, one of the trainee sales execs? I think you did around Christmas anyway. He's going." "Why?" "Not hitting the targets. He's been on a warning for the past 3 months, so it won't come as a surprise. If he'd got any sense, he would have left by now on his own terms." Emma Hills began to sort out the chaos of the breakfast table as she said, "That's a shame. He has a family, doesn't he?" Anthony said, "I think so," as he got up from the table. She thought so too. A shy young man at the Christmas drinks, she remembered wondering whether he was going to survive in the cutthroat world of car sales, especially at a company like Prestige. Grateful for someone talking to him, Liam had told her his girlfriend, who wasn't present, was expecting, and they were planning to get married. They might have that baby by now, and this morning her husband was going to dismiss him. This was a side to Anthony that few outside his work ever got to see. To most people he was the affable, likeable man she'd met at a friend's barbecue in her mid-20s, funny, pushy sometimes, but in a nice way, into fast cars and sport, and involved with a five-a-side football club for, as he put it, lake boys who get into a bit of bother sometimes. It was the right time for her, and Anthony had been easy to fall in love with. They were married in less than a year. When Gracie came along, Emma had continued with her job as deputy HR manager at Marshland's Fleet Hire, but when Angus was born they agreed she should become a full-time mother for a few years. And by then Anthony was earning better money and destined for greater things. He was already on his mobile up on the landing. He had a business voice and sounded like a proper boss these days. She thought briefly again about Liam, the young sales rep who hadn't made it, about him going home and telling his partner. Did they have a mortgage as well as a baby? Even if not, how would they pay the rent in a couple of months' time? It was horrible to think about, but you have to be tough to survive. She'd heard Anthony say it often, "You're only as good as last month's sales figures in this business." That was the side most people didn't see. He could be a little ruthless. But that's what had bought them a detached 4-bedroomed house in Bishop's Green. Anthony was a victor. These are the spoils, and who was she to complain? She called up to him, "Can you make sure Gracie's getting dressed before you come down? I'm going to be late." And then she turned her attention to the porridge that was beginning to congeal in Angus's blonde hair. She talked to him as she did so, making encouraging noises. Sometimes he went for hours without saying anything, which was just one more thing for her to worry about. But she'd read somewhere that Albert Einstein didn't speak at all until he was 5 years old, the same age as Gracie is now. If Angus was that intelligent, they'd need to be thinking about his schooling, wouldn't they? Wisbech grammar, or even public school. Anthony returned to the kitchen and said, "She is Miss Independent. Wouldn't let me do up the buttons on her blouse." He ruffled his son's hair and said, "Goodbye, boy. Knock 'em dead." Emma said, "He's going to the kindergarten playgroup, Anthony." "It's never too early to get ahead of the pack." She straightened up, waiting to be kissed goodbye. He did that every morning without fail. She said, "You look very smart. Is that your firing suit these days?" He always impressed in a suit. This one was the very dark grey.